what's the point in a Pixel 7 Pro versus the Xperia 1 Mark IV? So basically, when you take a look at these phones, you've got the Xperia 1 Mark IV right here. Now, it costs about $1,600 whenever it first came out. The price has since dropped quite a bit. You can get it seriously discounted basically at a lot of different places other than Best Buy. And then you've got the Pixel 7 Pro, which costs MSRP $899. It has also had a lot of sales, a lot of drops. But the two fundamental schools of thought for these two phones are completely different. One, Google relies on a lot of post-processing. It relies a lot on AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to make the best picture possible. It's kind of like a duo where it works together. You've got the hardware working together with the software to create the best picture possible. And it's worked out really well because if you take a look at the top of the charts, basically since the Pixels have been around, they're consistently number one. And then you also have enter stage left, or right, whichever side of the screen you're looking at, the Xperia 1 Mark IV. Basically costs almost twice as much when it came out. It doesn't even have a 50 megapixel camera, which is not that big of a deal because I'm going to tell you something. You have a 50 megapixel camera over here, but it bends down to like 12. So they're both roughly about the same kind of image whenever you're taking them on a day-to-day basis. When it comes to megapixels, both can do RAW, all that great stuff. But the train of thought, the school of thought behind the Sony Xperia line is not to rely on software. Now, maybe there is some software stuff that goes on, but they want to try and do it the old-fashioned way. They don't like the modern wizardry. They don't like all this AI-assisted stuff where you take a photo, it has to process, and then you get this image that's not exactly what it is that you took. Like a lot of times, even with like the Samsungs or with the Pixels, you can take a picture and then you go into the camera, you look at the photo, and there's kind of like a little bit of a glitch for a second where it shifts over and then the image looks way better. Not saying that the hardware and the lenses don't do a good job, but that component, that extra layer of the AI, the algorithm, all that computational photography they basically mastered, well, that plays a part in making the image. So that doesn't really happen over here. If it does it to a much lesser extent. And Sony gets flack for it. But that's one reason why their phones cost so much. They put really good lenses. They work with Zeiss. They've got the history that's there. You've got a dedicated shutter button. You've got the Sony Alpha camera set up. And you've also got 4K video. And you can do 4K 120 frames per second. So there's some cool stuff here. Also, it's really for the entire creator package. The Pixel is more of a enthusiast, a snap and shoot kind of guy or gal. Somebody who just wants to pull their phone up, hit the shutter, and then that's what they get and have the best picture possible. There's not really any manipulation you can do. There's not really any manual adjustments that you can do. You basically just get whatever you get and you don't throw a fit. For those of you out there who are parents or learned that as a child, when it comes to the Xperia 1 Mark IV, you can change everything. The ISO, the white balance, the zoom. You even have the continuous zoom with the lens that's on here that gives you a continuous variable zoom that you can adjust for different focal lengths, which is really, really cool. Something that even Pixel has not delved into yet. So the hardware chops, so to speak, when it comes to the camera on here. Seriously, much more has gone into that than most traditional cameras you get in a smartphone, because with the smartphones now, Samsung's relying heavily, these neural engines, using the processor, the post-processing, the computational photography. Samsung's gotten really good at it too, especially when it comes to night mode. So that's one of the biggest areas that you see a lot of the computational photography comes into night mode shots, because it's artificially enhancing everything and making it look in a manner that you wouldn't normally see that. Your eyes don't perceive it that way at nighttime because the light's not there for you to see it. So it really, a lot of ways, kind of makes an unnatural looking photo because it's brighter than what you would see. I don't even like taking nighttime photos because it's really kind of an experience that I just feel that I'll experience in the moment, and I don't feel I can capture accurately, right? Even though you can get some really cool looking nighttime photos. So that's what the Sony is for. The Sony doesn't take as good computational photography shots. It doesn't take as good low light shots, but you can adjust this any way that you need to and get the ideal shot. There's even preset camera modes in here. There's preset video modes in here. There's all sorts of things you can do, and you just press and hold down on the Sony Alpha, on the shutter button, and go up there. But you've got basic camera mode, which is cool, does some of that stuff. You've got auto. Auto kind of does everything for you. And then you can change all these different things. You can go from, so auto, you've got program auto, you've got manual exposure, shoot speed priority, and then you can like recall camera settings. There's just so much stuff that you can do in here, but the manual photography, manual exposure, you can adjust everything. All these different things you can do, you can change and adjust the image, so that way no matter what setting you're in, you can try and get the best photo possible. It's not like, okay, I'll try and take this photo, but I have limitations. Or I'll try and take this photo, but it's really going to have to rely on the backbone of the neural network, the machine learning, and the computational photography to give me this enhanced photo. That's what Sony's all about. They want to give you the controls as if you have basically a DSLR in your camera. Now, those of you who are shooting with the DSLR know that there's not a comparison. You can adjust, you can change everything basically, but still you can change out different lenses. There's a lot of different things you can do with a true DSLR that you can't do with the Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV. Also, there's been the video limitations because the Snapdragon 8 Generation 1 really is not a heat-friendly processor, and it was very prone for me to overheat during the summertime, shutting off my video all the time because it was just so hot. I'm expecting great things to come with the Snapdragon 8 Generation 2 that we'll get in the Xperia 1 Mark V. I will be all on board with that phone because if you've seen my previous videos, you know that I love the natural look of the camera photos that you get on the Xperia 1 Mark IV. You know that I love the form factor, the 4K screen, the 6.5-inch display. It's perfect with the kind of elongated aspect ratio. It's good for one-handed use. You've got a headphone jack up top. You can connect a microphone. You can use it as a microphone and a monitor while you record. You can live stream directly to YouTube straight from your phone without having to use a secondary camera. You got the USB-C on the bottom, and you've even got the capability to pop in and out the SD card straight through the bottom, which it has expandable SD card storage and 256 gigabytes baseline, which for last year was ahead of its time. So, yes, it's expensive. Yes, it's not for everyone. And they even have their creator accessories and stuff, the external monitor, like the hand grip. There's all sorts of cool accessories you can get for this. Even for gaming, a gaming apparatus you can connect to it that really adds a lot of different capabilities as well. So it's a really good creator, gamer, content platform that's really designed to give you control instead of taking the control away from you and just giving you a shutter button whenever it comes to the Google Pixel phone. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to go out and I'll go do a camera comparison. And you might find that maybe some of the photos might not look as good when I take them because I'm not the greatest manual exposure camera operator in the world. But there are some times where you get these photos that you just can't take with the Pixel phone, like that continuous zoom. Or there's some really cool things you can do with the 120 frames per second with the 4K and slowing it down. And there's just lots of neat things you can do with it. I love the phone. Yes, I had my issues with the overheating, but still, I call this my favorite phone of last year, and not just because it's purple. And I do love the dedicated shutter button. So there's just a lot of good things here. I'm really looking forward to the Xperia 1 Mark V, but I wanted to take a minute because some folks are like, hey, I'm tired of all these processed-looking images. You know, I have actually comments from people that say they hate the way that Google Pixel images look. Yes, it's possible. There are people that say they hate the way that the Samsung Galaxy photos look. Yes, it's possible. Despite the fact they look so good, they don't always look the most natural, the most true to life. And that's what you get right here. The most natural, the most true to life, the best you're going to get, I think, in a smartphone camera that really flexes that manual capability and gives you the control to take the exposures and the shots that you want to get and have them turn out the way that you expect them to and not to be processed. So that's all I got in this video. I really just wanted to talk about that and contrast kind of the difference here. And like I said, I'm actually going to do a camera comparison between the two. That wasn't the point of this video, but I wanted to get into some of the detail and try and explain what the purpose is of this phone, why Sony still makes them, why people actually want them despite the fact they're more expensive and may not take the best instantaneous point and shoot photos. Because if you pull this up on auto mode and point and shoot, it doesn't turn out as good as it does on the Pixel. But when you flip it over and go full manual controls, you really can do some great magic with this phone. So that's all I've got. If you have any questions or comments, then please go down in the comment section. I will get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, if you found it helpful, if you like the Sony phones, if you don't like the way that the Pixel images look, please sound off in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.